So Godzilla is a huge franchise spanning literally dozens of films, cartoons, video games, and of course comic books. So it seems like every huge franchise has a comic book adaptation, and of course Godzilla is no exception. So I figure Godzilla, he's such a huge property that he's worth his own playlist, as he has countless like single issues, graphic novels, and they span just decades worth of stories. Plus, to be quite honest, I'm a huge fan of kaiju monsters. You know, nothing really beats the feeling of watching those movies because they make you feel so small and so insignificant, and they're kind of funny sometimes. Like those old classic ones are kind of ridiculous. It never gets old, you know. It never gets old watching giant monsters fucking beat the shit out of each other. So that's what we're doing in this playlist. We're gonna cover Godzilla comics. So right now, I have to admit, like right off the bat, this playlist is not starting in the right place. It's actually starting in the completely wrong spot. You see, Godzilla is not a distinctly American creation. Anybody who is anybody knows that Godzilla started out as a film back in 1954, I think, maybe. It was written and produced entirely in Japan by Toho Studios. As a result, there were not comic book adaptations. The story was originally adapted into manga and sold locally in Japan. So as a result, I have almost no access to the original Godzilla manga, at least specifically the ones from the 1950s, and I cannot even wrap my head around how I would go about finding them. Besides, manga really is like a whole separate playlist. You know, it's something that I should get into later, like down the road, you know. So expect these videos probably in the distant future. For now, we're going to focus specifically on Godzilla comic books which were produced in America, specifically comic books in America, and they started in the 70s actually, as Godzilla films rose to prominence in the US. But just real quick, as an announcement, I gotta tell you guys, because this is the first video in this playlist and most people are gonna see this one, I want to ask you guys, if anybody knows the whereabouts of those original Godzilla manga, please send me an email or something, anything. Just, I would love to cover them, but it looks like at this point that I'm not going to get to them, at least through any traditional means, if you know what I'm saying. But anyway, now that all that's out of the way, let's start off this playlist with something of an oddity. You see, the first ever Godzilla comic book produced in the United States is not actually a comic book at all. Actually, it's more like a pamphlet. It is a 4-page comic strip, and it is titled Godzilla vs. Megalon, and it was produced as a promotional material for the release of that film in the United States. So we're going to talk about that today. Don't expect this to be a long video. It's 4 pages, as I said. In fact, I was contemplating just skipping this piece of Godzilla history, and I would have, if not for the fact that this is literally the first published Godzilla comic in the United States. So, you know, I felt I had to say something about it. So, Godzilla vs. Megalon, right? That was a movie produced in 1973, and it got a theatrical release in the US in 1976, followed by a release on home media. At the time, the idea of taking a movie home with you was absurd. But VHS and Betamax technology had just been introduced, so now it was possible to buy movies and view them in the comfort of your own living room. Because of the timely release of Godzilla vs. Megalon, it became a huge hit and boosted Godzilla into the American mainstream. Cinema Shares, the company that bought the film and brought it to theaters, produced the comic, which they gave away free at theaters to promote the film. Needless to say, it worked, and now Godzilla is a huge franchise in the United States, with films being made to this day. The comic starts out in the depths of the ocean, where we witness a terrifying volcanic reaction. What force could be causing this terrible event to take place? Well, it's none other than Megalon being birthed into this world through a womb of liquid hot magma. And with mighty wings, Megalon flies off towards the city to satiate his insatiable hunger for energy. Needless to say, the army doesn't like that one bit, so they decide to attack him with fighter jets. Of course, even their airborne missiles do nothing to end the might of the colossal Megalon. So now Godzilla shows up and he is pissed that Megalon is causing all this destruction, and he knows he needs to stop the massive monster. But what can he do? Because Megalon has a friend named Borodan. Wait, what? Who the hell is Borodan? That's clearly Gigan. Anyway, they team up and they jump Godzilla, and he gets his ass kicked. But then, just at that last moment, Robot Man shows up to save the day. Wait, what? Who the fuck is Robot Man? That's Jet Jaguar. Anyway, he shows up to turn the tide of the battle, and together they defeat Megalon and Gigan and save the day. And just so you know, Godzilla vs. Megalon is coming to theaters near you. Yeah, you bet your sweet ass I'm gonna go watch that movie. So that's it. That's the 4 pages. That's all there is to this comic, and honestly, like, I love it. I think it's great. It's short. It's sweet. If I were reading this back in the 70s, I would have gone to see this movie. Except for those last-minute name changes. What was up with that? I don't know. I know that Robot Man was Jet Jaguar. Specifically, he came in at the last moment because he was part of a competition where all the Japanese children, they made like designs for robot superheroes to be featured in the movie, and Jet Jaguar won. So in all likelihood, they didn't even know his name when they made this. Anyway, that's it for this episode. Tune in next time when we get into Marvel Comics, his acquisition of Godzilla, the license, and all of Godzilla's crazy mad adventures in the Marvel Universe. You want to be here. You don't want to miss that. It's crazy. But for now, if you like reading this comic with me and you want to read more comics with me, then why not like this video, subscribe to the channel. If you're feeling very generous, I also have a Patreon you could donate to. But until next time, nerds, stay heroic.